Hello, welcome to my new series on Factorio where I'm going to attempt to build a mega factory. I've been playing Factorio for a while. It's a wonderful game. I absolutely love it. One thing that I've noticed, however, is that all the factories that I have built in the past have been tiny compared to factories that other people have built. People that I've seen on the forums and such. Even when people come in and say, "Hey, look at the first factory I built," it's like 10 times larger than mine. So what I'm going to do is just attempt to build the biggest factory that I possibly can. I don't care about how much I need of something. I'm just going to produce as much as possible. Get those numbers really good high up. Just as a comparison here, I'm going to show you some pictures of some screenshots of some of my previous factories. First one we're going to show is the very first factory I built, and as you can see, this thing is absolutely tiny. It fits on a single screen, with the exception of some mining drills and the copper smelter, which are just hanging off the screen to the south mostly. Everything fit right there. I only built like one or two of everything, so it was slow and steady, but it got me through the main game. I researched and I launched a rocket here. And then we'll move on to the second factory I built. A little bit bigger, a little bit more organized. But again, it was tiny. The entire thing fit on one screen, with maybe the exception of the solar panel array that I have off to the northeast. Um, but again, it was a lot more fun. I had a lot more experience with this one, but I felt like I could do better. Then I went onto the forums, the Factorial forums, and I found a user there by the name of D, who created a plug and play modular factory. I decided to give that a shot, and that actually worked out really well. It did seem like it could just be infinitely expandable in all directions. Um, but again, I was only producing as much as I needed, and my factory was tiny. So here I'm just gonna go all out. Just throw everything against the wall and build a giant thing. Now I have absolutely no idea how to actually do this. So come along with me as we attempt to figure this out as we go. I have researched online a few various layouts and such that I'll probably be employing as I go through this, but for the most part, it's just going to be see what works. And so hopefully you'll find this as enjoyable as I will in building it. So let's get right to it. All right, as you can see, I've already got a factory started here with some basic parameters. I've got a smelting operation going. They're really basic, stone furnaces, just starting everything out. I have a lot of coal in my inventory, so I'm just going to set up a thing here to put that out there as a buffer. Alright, and first thing I'm going to do is, instead of actually setting up research, which is the first thing I usually do, I'm going to plan this out a little bit and start with a circuit production. And just kind of figuring out some where I'm going to put everything here, get the assemblers crafted. And I'm going to go with a basic design that you're probably very familiar with if you've played any amount of Factorio. Which is having three copper cable assemblers feeding into two of the circuit assemblers. Getting the power set up there, and the inserters go a little crazy on that, but there's never a bad thing, especially when you're building a mega factory. So yeah, just getting everything spaced out properly there. And here we go, get everything set up. Now, as for the output, I'm going to actually set up a bit of a buffer, not using chests, but a separate belt for each output that will then feed onto the main belt in the center. Right here is actually where I decided to do it that way. Get the splitter going. And then there's going to be the main bus leading out of the circuit production factory. I'm going to go ahead and start building the first bits of the main bus, giving myself some room for building some furnaces later on. Going ahead and getting the copper set up over here. I need a lot of belts for this, but that's okay. When you're building a mega factory like this, I would imagine you're going to need to do that a lot. So it's better to take your time when you're first starting out and get it done right. And as you'll see several points throughout this video, that I don't even take my own advice on that. But getting the first bits of the main bus in place. And I don't want to just have it feeding straight in, so I get a splitter going there. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side here. Get that going, figure out where exactly I need to get it. Made that line a little bit too long there. But I can always expand that out later. That's the idea, right? When you're building a mega factory, you want expandability. And, so fortunately I've learned how to do that a lot by watching other videos. You'll probably notice the strong resemblance to another YouTube video producer by the name of Bentham over at Mangled Pork Gaming. I absolutely love watching his videos, so I apologize if it looks like I'm just ripping off his style here, but I consider it an homage of sorts. So, and it just seems like it's a really nice way of doing this. So, so much for I can't think here. The words are escaping. So much for originality, right? Why bother reinventing the wheel, as I always say? All right, and getting the main bus set up now to head up beyond here, because this is just the first of many stops. The reason I decided to do the circuit production first is because everything in the factory uses circuits. So it's good to get that set up right away. Need a couple more belts here. Go ahead and get these the last few boxes out of the way. There we go. Obviously the smelting area, I'm planning on having that build up a lot later on. In fact, the idea here that I have is that I want to have at least 4 full belts dedicated to each of the copper and iron plates. So making sure that I have enough room set up for that. There I go, spacing out a few of the requirements for that. The green circuits are going to be on their own double belt system going up through the center of this. I'll probably end up doing the same with the advanced circuits as well when the time comes. And there you can see it, just getting that set up. There we go. And I decide I'm going to do a belt balancer here. Another thing that I've blatantly ripped off from other users. But as I said early on, I'm pretty much doing that with everything now, because why bother, changing it if this is just the way it works? All right, over here, I'm going to be set up the first of the belt factory, because again, you're going to need a lot of belts to build a mega factory. Not to mention the fact that they're a requirement for green science. I'm going to split off some iron over here. And I'm eventually going to need some, right here I realize I've spaced everything out just a little bit. I'll fix that later. You need belts for a lot of different things. So I'm just going to try to figure out the best way to lay this all out. This will go through a lot of iterations here, so I apologize if I spend a lot of time over here. Okay, getting that fed over and expanding the main bus upwards a little bit. Right now it's just producing the basic transport belt. Get that hooked up to the power, which will all probably be replaced later on as I get access to the bigger and better stuff. There it goes. It's starting to make that. Fixing some of the bottlenecks along the way, trying to figure out the most efficient way of feeding everything in there. And what I ultimately find out is that it just can't get the finished transport belts out of the top assembler fast enough. There we go. You can see everything's working pretty well there. And then I realize, of course, I'm going to need to have some assemblers for the other types of belts, underground belts and splitters. So what I want to do is I want to have one assembler dedicated to giving belts to me, because I'm going to need a lot of them. and then another system entirely for the more advanced products. And that's going to require the green circuits. So first stop along the way there, I guess. We'll go ahead and bring those over. Meantime, though, I realized that I'm just not producing enough belts. So when I first set this up, I only put down 2 electric miners on each of my resource patches. I'm going to head over there and add in a few more of those, get production put up a little bit more. And I'm just going to try to saturate these ore deposits as well as I can. When I first set this thing up, I decided I wanted to have resource pockets that would last me a little while, because normally I don't like doing that, because it does. I like the extra challenge of having to find new resource deposits as I go along. But when you're building a mega factory, you just need a ton of resources, so I didn't want to be spending 90% of my free time scouting out new resource patches. And then I realized I had them coming out onto both sides of that belt. I just do a quick little fix over here. Whoops! There it goes. Now everything will feed onto the right side along with that coal. I cannot wait till I get electric furnaces, so we won't have to deal with that anymore. But as for right now, it is a requirement. And here I go, fixing the spacing problem that I had. I just need to move everything over by 1 tile. So I'm going to go ahead and get that taken care of. Anyway, so yeah, as I'm setting that up, I'll finish talking about the resource patches, the mentality I had for those. I wanted the resource patches to last a good long while, but I figured to sort of, you know, still make it a challenge is to have them be not as frequent. So that'll give me excuses to go out and search for new resource patches and, you know, run some train lines out there eventually. Okay, anyway, here we go, setting up the second set of assemblers. So we'll have one set for belts that I use and the other set for belts that it uses to make better, faster belts. And so I'm just going to have it, I decided to change where the inserters go. They're each going to feed off of one side of the belt. That way it's an even amount of resources on either side. Figure everything will be fair. And there we go. That's feeding off into there. And then I'm just trying to figure out where to put the assemblers for the underground and splitter assemblers. And like I said, I'm just doing this all by the seat of my pants. So it's a lot of fidgeting around and moving it. Yeah, ultimately I decided I'm going to put underground belts on one side and splitters on the other. That way, and then I realized the splitters need 3 ingredients, and these gray assemblers can only do 2. So go ahead and set up the underground belts, but for right now, the splitter assembler is not functioning. So I figure I'll just take the belts that that assembler is using for that and output it to a chest, so that I have belts to use, like what my original plan was. So in the meantime, go ahead and I'm going to set up the inputs, just so that later on, when I finally do get the blue assemblers, everything will just, you know, start working right away. And because I have a slight bit of OCD, we're going to just make sure that all of the bus lines are at the same level, so that everything looks nice and neat. There we go, splitting off the circuits. And there they go. That's nice. And get everything set up for the next level. So that should be good for now. Realize that the blue assemblers are a couple of technologies away, and right now I don't have any good science set up. So and I'm going to put science farther down the main bus. Actually, right now we're realizing that we're a little low on electricity, so I start up 2 more boilers into my setup. Realize that's not enough, so I make it 6. You can see the available power line just creeps all the way up and hits 100. Perfect. That'll last us for a while. Yeah, I don't want to be using too much coal right off the bat, so I'm going to try to, you know, phase those in as needed. Put a couple more mining drills over on the iron. And pick up a couple extra plates to make a few more miners, so I can go and do the same thing over on the copper side. Because right now we don't use a lot of copper. The circuit production is the only thing using it, but circuits are going to be huge, so might as well, hedge for the future. So there's a total of 5 mining drills on there now. Get the power all set up, and that should be good. Alright, head back into the main area of the factory now. You can see the iron furnaces over there are almost using them all, which is great. So that should be no problem getting that set up. Let's see, and I decide that the next thing I'm going to do is set up some science, because we really do need to get those red science packs done. So I'm going to find a place where I have both iron and copper plates. This is just a temporary setup for now. Obviously, I'm going to move this to a much more organized section later on. Get the gear production and then the red science production, everything powered up, and there it goes. And over here, I had another temporary science thing set up, so I'm going to go deconstruct that. Oh, the stone production is already run out on there. Going to go ahead and get that thing going. Making stone bricks. I don't really use a lot of stone bricks early in the game because it doesn't really increase the speed a whole lot, so I'm not going to worry about that. But I'm going to need them later on, so might as well have them for the future. And there we go, setting up 2 science labs so they can start feeding in there, and that should get science going again. While we're working on that, I'm going to go farther north and start setting up an inserter factory, because that's going to be necessary for both green and blue science packs later on down the line. Just trying to figure out where I'm going to put all this, and this is probably all going to be deconstructed later on in the game, but that's half the fun of Factorio, is figuring out what works and what doesn't, and how to fix it so that it does. So here we go, feeding off an iron line. I want to make sure everything is lined up exactly the same. There goes that OCD again, getting everything lined up, even though we don't actually need that. Well, we will be needing the circuit production later on. The sad thing about inserter production is that to go from the basic inserter to the fast inserter to the smart inserter, each successive iteration there takes 1 fewer ingredient. Well, except for, of course, the gear production, which I'm just going to go ahead and feed into the main inserter assembler. But then again, we have the same problem where the basic and fast inserters both will need a blue level assembler because they require 3 ingredients. There we go. Got automation 2 going. That will give us the blue inserters we're looking for. Or not inserters, the assemblers. Go ahead and get that started. In the meantime, I'll just do the same thing what I did before, just get it all set up ahead of time, so that when we do get there, it'll all be ready to go. And right now, we're just kind of waiting on the science to finish, so getting everything organized in my tiny little hotbar there. And take some of those off, because I realized I was crafting those in my inventory, even though I had a huge full line of it over there. So here we go. I'm just going to craft some of these by hand and put them into that box, kind of get things moving along a little bit. And then while we're killing time, I'm going to go ahead and extend my 4-lane bus, even though I'm not actually using it right now, but it's there for the future. And that's all a MegaFactory is all about. You have to plan ahead. And that's always been one of my failings in my previous factories. I didn't plan ahead. I just built what I needed at the time. And then when it came time to expand, I looked around and had no room for anything. So hopefully we can alleviate that problem a bit in this series. And just sort of killing time while stuff is crafting in my inventory. I figure while I'm waiting for that, I can go down and rearrange some of my furnaces. Right now I have 8 furnaces per side, and I want room for 16. And I realize as I'm setting this up, I didn't quite give myself enough room when I pulled the main bus up. I'm going to go ahead and fix that. A few more science packs there. That will be as far as I will need for 16, so I'm going to go ahead and reconnect all those belts and get that all hooked up again. Because there's not like there's a whole lot else going on in the factory at the moment. Go ahead and get that done on the copper side as well. Get all those lanes set up. It doesn't really interrupt a whole lot because there's not a lot going on. And there we go. That should give us room for 16 furnaces on each side. And I've given myself plenty of sideways room to add more smelters there in the future. Automation's about 80% of the way along, so just sort of killing a little bit more time. Setting up where I want to eventually have my steel production going on. Realize I am going to need that eventually, and I already I didn't plan enough for the future, but there's plenty of space along the sides. I should be able to shoehorn it in somewhere. First episode, I'm already shoehorning stuff in. Anyway, over on the inserter base, something I've always liked to do in the past is set up a buffer chest between them, so that even as they are produced, they're, you know, if the end of the line can't take anymore, it can still produce some of the interims. I do end up using a lot of fast inserters down the line, not so much with the smart inserters, except for as needed for green science. So it's always nice to have a chest set up that's just putting fast inserters in there for when I need them later. And there we go. There's the research for the blue assemblers, getting that put in for the splitter. That'll be so nice. Outputting that. And we'll take care of the needs for there we go. Make sure that there's 4 stacks. I put an iron chest for the output, realized I didn't need that, so I replaced it with a wooden chest. I only wanted 3 stacks of splitters. That should be all I really need at any given time. And there we go. We got the inserters going. And we're coming up to the end of the episode now, so I realize I'm getting fairly close to a biter hive up there to the north, so I'm going to go ahead and set up some defenses. I really don't have a whole lot of really good defenses at the moment. I can't even make the armor-piercing bullets, but I'm going to put a few of those in there just in case they decide to come out and start some trouble. So anyway, put those turrets up in place, getting the ammunition crafted, and that's probably where I'm going to end this episode. Hopefully things will be a little more interesting in the future. I realize this is all kind of basic stuff, but there goes the rest of the ammunition there, and some armor as well. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. My name is Azriel, by the way, and I want to invite you to never stop building.